12, the Honourable David Parker.
My question is to the Minister of Conservation. Will she be visiting the Coromandel during Easter to gauge for herself the depth... Thank you.
Order.
Will she be visiting the Coromandel during Easter to gauge for herself the depth of resentment against proposals to allow mining on sensitive Schedule 4 land?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr Speaker, I do have prior engagements this Easter, but I am wondering what other invitations the member does have in mind.
The Honourable David Parker.
Supplementary. When did the Minister last visit the Coromandel?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
I have visited the Coromandel in my capacity either as Minister of Conservation or Associate Minister of Conservation. If the member wants the specific date, I can certainly provide that at a later stage.
The Honourable David Parker.
Supplementary.
The Honourable David Parker.
Why doesn't the Minister acknowledge that because Auckland has no mainland national parks, the protection of conservation lands in the Coromandel is all the more important?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr Speaker, I'm mindful of the protection of conservation lands, and that is one of the reasons why we've got a discussion paper out there for submission. It's actually a discussion paper, not a decision paper.
The Honourable David Parker.
Is the government's decision to undermine water conservation orders in Canterbury, which occurred under urgency this week, yet another example of how her cabinet colleagues are ignoring her efforts to advocate for the environment, or did she support the undermining of conservation orders on the Rakaia Rangitata rivers in the Hiranui application?
Order.
Order.
Before I call the Honourable Minister, that's a fairly long stretch from the primary question about visiting the Coromandel during Easter to gauge feeling about I'm still considering this point of order, but I will hear the Honourable Dr Nick Smith. So long as it's a genuine point of order, the Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
The legislation is very clear that responsibility for the water conservation orders rest with the Minister for the Environment, not the Minister of Conservation.
I thank the Honourable Member for that clarification. What I'll do, I think, is, because this is the last question of this session, I invite the Honourable David Parker to ask a further supplementary that is a little closer to his primary question. A little closer to his primary question. The Honourable David Parker.
Supplementary, sir. Was the government's decision to proceed with consideration of mining in Coromandel, but to exclude consideration of mining in Kahurangi, because whilst it was worried that it would lose Nick Smith's seat, it wasn't too worried about Sandra Gowdie's?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr Speaker, can I say we have made no such decision to proceed? We made a decision to release a discussion paper, and what I would say is, why is it okay for Labor to approve and allow mining in or on national parks, but it is not okay for the national government to even discuss it and talk about it?
Order. That brings to a close questions for oral answer in this session. The debate on the third readings